The plasma bolt missed Jake Morrison's head by inches, scorching the metal bulkhead behind him. He rolled behind a cargo container as 3 more shots lit up the corridor in brilliant blue streaks. His heart hammered against his ribs while sweat dripped into his eyes. "Contact! Multiple hostiles! Deck 7!" he shouted into his comm unit, squeezing off 2 rounds from his pulse rifle. The weapon kicked hard against his shoulder. One shot connected, dropping an armored figure in a spray of purple blood. They weren't supposed to be here. The derelict station had registered as abandoned on every scan. Now Jake and his salvage crew were pinned down by warriors that moved like liquid shadow, their chitinous armor reflecting the emergency lights in nauseating patterns. "Jake, we're cut off," Linda Hayes' voice crackled through static. "They're everywhere," he swore under his breath and checked his ammunition counter. 43 rounds left. Not enough. Never enough. Another warrior rounded the corner, this one bigger than the others, wielding a weapon that hummed with lethal energy. Jake fired 3 quick bursts. The creature staggered but didn't fall. Then she appeared. The corridor seemed to darken around her presence. She stood 7 feet tall, her exoskeleton gleaming like polished obsidian, 4 arms moved with predatory grace, each ending in claws that could punch through steel. Her face was angular and alien, yet undeniably feminine in its sharp beauty. Crimson eyes fixed on him with an intensity that froze his blood. The warriors stopped firing. Complete silence fell across the deck. Jake kept his rifle trained on her chest, knowing it was pointless. She moved forward with measured steps, her clawed feet clicking against the deck plating. Each movement radiated controlled power, deadly confidence. Human. Her voice resonated through the corridor, rich and layered with harmonics that shouldn't exist. "You fight well. Most of your kind panic and die quickly." "Yeah, well, I had a rough childhood," Jake replied, surprised his voice stayed steady. His finger tensed on the trigger. "Builds character." Her head tilted, studying him like a specimen. Humor in the face of death. Curious. "Look, I don't know what this is about, but my crew and I were just here for salvage. We can leave. Pretend this never happened." "You cannot leave." She stepped closer, ignoring his weapon entirely. "I am Queen Vexara of the Shade Collective. This station belongs to my hive. You have entered my domain." Jake's mind raced through options. None of them good. So what happens now? You kill us? Perhaps. Those crimson eyes seemed to pierce through him. Or perhaps I find a use for humans who don't break easily. Tell me, Jake Morrison, what do you value? How do you know my name? I know everything about this station, including the identities of the 6 humans currently trapped within it. Her mandibles shifted in what might have been a smile. "Answer my question." Jake's jaw tightened. "I like strong women, the kind who don't need rescuing." Queen Vexara leaned down until her face was level with his. Her breath smelled of ozone and something sweet he couldn't identify. When she spoke, her voice dropped to a whisper that somehow filled the entire corridor. "Then you'll love me." Jake's finger trembled on the trigger. Every instinct screamed at him to fire, to fight, to do something other than stand there while an alien queen invaded his personal space. But something in those crimson eyes held him frozen, not with fear exactly, but with a strange electricity he couldn't name. "My crew," he managed to say. "Let them go. Brave, foolish, entertaining." Vexara straightened to her full height. "I admire your attempt at negotiation, but you possess nothing I want. Except perhaps yourself." Before Jake could process that statement, an explosion rocked the station. The deck plates buckled beneath his feet, throwing him against the wall. Emergency klaxons wailed to life. Red warning lights bathed everything in bloody illumination. Vexara's head snapped toward the blast origin. Her warriors chittered in their clicking language, weapons raised. She hissed something that sounded like grinding metal, and they scattered into defensive positions. What was that? Jake pulled himself upright, rifle ready. Hunters. The word dripped with venom. The Krell have found us. Another explosion, closer this time. The hull groaned under stress. Through the viewport, Jake saw 3 massive warships emerging from hyperspace, their hulls bristling with weapons that charged with ominous green light. The Krell? I thought they were extinct. Clearly your information is outdated. Vexara moved to the viewport, her forearms flowing through complex gestures. Holographic displays materialized around her, showing tactical data Jake could barely comprehend. They hunt my kind across the galaxy. They will not negotiate. They will not show mercy. They will sterilize this station and everyone on it. Jake's comm crackled. Jake, this is Pete Rodriguez. We've got bogies boarding through the lower docks. They're cutting through our people like paper. Get to the central hub, Jake ordered. Barricade yourselves in. What about you? I'm working on it. He turned to Vexara. You have ships? 1 transport. Damaged. It cannot carry my entire hive. Her mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation. We are trapped. How many in your hive? 47 warriors. 12 drones. 3 juveniles. She fixed him with that piercing stare. And 1 queen who refuses to abandon her children. The station shuddered again. Somewhere below, screams echoed through the ventilation system, cut short by the wet sounds of violence. Jake's stomach churned. My crew is 6 people. Your transport can carry what? Maybe 20? 30 if we sacrifice comfort and dignity. Jake did the math quickly. Not enough. Not nearly enough. Then we fight. Vexara's expression shifted into something that might have been surprise. You would fight beside us? We are not your kind. Neither are the Krell, and they're currently killing everyone. He checked his ammunition again. Still 43 rounds. Enemy of my enemy and all that. A human idiom. Quaint. But something changed in her posture, a subtle relaxation of tension. Very well, Jake Morrison. We fight together. If we survive, perhaps I will show you why strength comes in many forms. She moved with blinding speed, grabbing Jake by the waist with 2 of her 4 arms. He barely had time to yelp before she was running down the corridor, carrying him like he weighed nothing. Her warriors fell in around them, weapons blazing as Krell soldiers poured from every intersection. The Krell were nightmares made flesh. 8 feet of scaled muscle and fang, wielding plasma weapons that turned anything they hit into molten slag. They moved with pack tactics, coordinating with guttural roars that shook the bulkheads. Vexara bounded off a wall, twisted in midair, and slammed 2 Krell together with bone-crushing force. She landed in a crouch, set Jake down, and tore through 3 more with her claws before they could react. Purple and red blood mixed on the deck in a grotesque palette. Jake opened fire, dropping 2 Krell that tried to flank them. His rounds punched through their scaled armor at close range, but it took multiple hits to bring each one down. They were absurdly tough. Central hub now, Vexara commanded. Her warriors formed a protective circle, fighting with desperate ferocity. 2 fell to Krell plasma fire, their bodies disintegrating in green flames. Vexara's roar of rage was primal and terrifying. They reached the central hub where Jake's crew had barricaded themselves behind overturned equipment. Pete Rodriguez looked up from behind a console, his face pale. Boss, what the hell is happening? Long story. We're about to have company. Jake took position at the main entrance, checking sight lines. Linda Hayes, you still have those mining charges? 3 left, she called from across the hub. Plant them at the auxiliary corridors. Blow them when I give the signal. Vexara positioned her warriors at strategic points, her tactical mind evident in every placement. She moved to stand beside Jake, her presence somehow reassuring despite everything. "Your crew trusts you," she observed. "I try not to get them killed." A leader who values life over glory. Her mandibles clicked softly. Rare among any species. The Krell came in a wave of scales and fury. Jake squeezed the trigger, and the hub exploded into chaos. Plasma bolts crossed the space in brilliant streaks of death. Jake fired in controlled bursts, aiming for the gaps in Krell armor. Beside him, Vexara moved like a whirlwind of claws and fury, each strike precise and lethal. Her warriors fought with coordinated brutality that spoke of countless battles. "Now, Linda," Jake shouted. The mining charges detonated in sequence, collapsing 2 auxiliary corridors in clouds of debris and flame. The explosion bought them seconds, maybe a minute, if they were lucky. Krell bodies littered the entrance, but more pressed forward, trampling their own dead. Jake's rifle clicked empty. He dropped the magazine, slammed a fresh one home, and kept firing. His shoulders ached from the recoil. Sweat stung his eyes. A Krell broke through the defensive line, charging straight at Pete. The creature raised its weapon, plasma already building in the barrel. Jake swung his rifle around, knowing he was too slow, too far away. Vexara's tail whipped out, impaling the Krell through its chest. She lifted the massive creature and hurled it back into its companions, bowling over 3 more. The movement was so fast, Jake almost missed it. "Thanks," Pete gasped. "Protect the humans," Vexara commanded her warriors. "They are allies now." The Shade warriors adjusted their formation, creating overlapping fields of fire that protected Jake's crew. It was working. Against all odds, they were holding. Then the wall exploded inward. A Krell war chief stomped through the breach, easily 10 feet tall and armored in heavy battle plate. It carried a weapon that looked like it had been ripped from a gunship. The barrel spun with a mechanical whine, and then the world became fire and thunder. Jake dove behind a support column as the heavy weapon chewed through everything in its path. 2 of Vexara's warriors were cut in half before they could dodge. The hub filled with the smell of burnt ozone and blood. "We need to take that thing down," Jake yelled over the weapon's fire. Agreed. "Suggestions?" Vexara crouched beside him, her armor scorched from near misses. "Can your warriors get behind it?" "Not without dying." "That weapon has full coverage." The war chief was positioned in the breach, using the collapsed wall as cover. It fired in sweeping arcs, forcing everyone to stay pinned down. They needed a distraction, something to draw its attention. "I have an idea. A stupid idea." "I am listening." "I run straight at it. You and your warriors hit it from the sides while it's focused on me." Vexara's mandibles spread wide. "That is indeed stupid. You would die instantly." "Got a better plan?" She was silent for a heartbeat. "No, I do not." Her clawed hand gripped his shoulder with surprising gentleness. "For what it is worth, you have proven yourself worthy, Jake Morrison. Your death would displease me. Try not to let me die, then." He didn't give himself time to think about it. Jake burst from cover, rifle blazing. The war chief's weapon swung toward him immediately, exactly as planned. Rounds chewed up the deck at his feet. He zigzagged, dodged, felt heat washed past his face as bolts missed by inches. Vexara and 6 warriors hit the war chief from both flanks. They moved in perfect synchronization, a flowing attack that exploited the split second of distraction Jake provided. Claws found gaps in armor. Weapons fired at point-blank range. The war chief roared, swinging its massive weapon like a club. It caught one warrior and sent the body flying across the hub. but Vexara was already on its back, all four arms gripping, tearing, ripping away armor plates. Jake slid across the deck and came up beneath the war chief's guard. He pressed his rifle against its throat and emptied the entire magazine. The Krell's roar turned into a wet gurgle. It crashed backward, and Vexara leaped clear as it fell. Silence descended on the hub, broken only by heavy breathing and the crackle of small fires. "Status," Vexara demanded. "3 warriors down, Queen." One responded in broken human standard. 17 operational. Drones and juveniles secure. Jake did a quick head count of his crew. All alive, though Rick Torres had a nasty burn on his arm and Kate Phillips was bleeding from a scalp wound. "The Krell will send more," Vexara said. "This was merely a probing attack. How long do we have?" "Minutes. Perhaps 10? Jake looked around the devastated hub. Bodies everywhere. Damaged equipment. His crew exhausted and low on ammunition, Vexara's hive depleted and surrounded. The math was simple and brutal. "Your transport," he said. "Can it fly?" "The engines function, the weapons do not." "The shields are at 30%. Good enough. We load everyone on it, punch through their blockade. Their warships will destroy us before we clear the station. Not if we use the station's reactor." Vexara's eyes narrowed. "Elaborate." "This is a fusion reactor station. If we overload the containment, we can create a blast big enough to damage their shields. Maybe even take out one of their ships. In the confusion, we run. That will destroy the station. The station is already lost. We just need to decide if anyone gets out alive." She studied him for a long moment. "You would sacrifice this installation to save strangers who threatened you mere minutes ago?" "I'd sacrifice it to save anyone who doesn't deserve to die here." Jake met her gaze steadily. "That includes you and your hive." Vexara's mandibles clicked in what Jake was starting to recognize as approval. "Very well, we proceed with your plan." She turned to her warriors. "Gather the drones and juveniles." We moved to the transport bay. Jake activated his comm. All hands were evacuating. "Grab what you can carry and move toward Dock 3. "We leave in 5 minutes. "What about the reactor?" Pete asked. Jake picked up his rifle and checked it over. "I'll handle it." "Like hell you will," Linda said. "I'm the engineer. I can set the overload faster than you." "Linda?" "Huh. Don't argue, boss. You're needed to get everyone out. I'll set the timer and catch up." Before Jake could protest, Vexara interrupted. "She is correct. The engineer goes, you come with me." Her tone left no room for argument. "I did not keep you alive just to watch you throw your life away on a dramatic gesture." Jake wanted to argue, but the look in Vexara's eyes stopped him. There was something there beyond tactical necessity, something that made his chest tighten. "Fine. Linda, 15-minute timer. That should give you time to reach the transport." "Got it." Linda grabbed her toolkit and sprinted toward the reactor core. Vexara moved close to Jake, her voice dropping low. "Come. We have much to survive, you and I." The journey to Dock 3 was a nightmare of running battles and desperate escapes. Krell patrols hunted them through every corridor, forcing constant detours. Vexara's warriors fought rearguard actions, buying time with their lives. Each loss made her mandibles click with barely suppressed rage. Jake's crew moved together, covering each other's backs. Pete carried Kate, who had taken a bad hit from falling debris. Rick provided, suppressing fire despite his burned arm. They were battered, bloodied, but still moving. The transport came into view through the Dock 3 viewport. It was an ugly thing, all harsh angles and dark metal, but it was escape. The boarding ramp was already down, Vexara's drones loading the juveniles aboard with frantic efficiency. Get everyone on board, Jake ordered. I'll hold here until Linda arrives. Negative. Vexara positioned herself beside him. We hold together. Your hive needs you. My hive needs me alive, yes. But a queen who abandons her allies is no queen at all. She checked the energy reserves on her weapons. Besides, you require supervision. Humans have a distressing tendency towards self-sacrifice. Jake couldn't help but smile despite everything. You're one to talk. A group of Krell rounded the corner, weapons raised. Jake and Vexara opened fire simultaneously, their attacks coordinated without words. 2 years of training couldn't match what they'd learned about each other in the last hour of combat. The last Krell fell, and Jake's rifle clicked empty. He'd burned through all his spare magazines. Vexara handed him a shade plasma pistol without being asked. Thank you. Do not lose it. That weapon is bonded to my biometrics. If you die, it becomes useless slag. Motivational. Linda's voice crackled through the comm. Reactor overload initiated. Timer set for 12 minutes. I'm on my way. Acknowledged. Move fast. 8 minutes later, Linda burst through the corridor entrance, sprinting full speed. Behind her, a tide of Krell soldiers poured in pursuit, their roars shaking the bulkheads. Go, 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 Jake shouted, firing the plasma pistol. The weapon kicked differently than his rifle, but he adapted quickly. Vexara's warriors laid down covering fire as Linda raced up the boarding ramp. Everyone's aboard, Pete yelled from inside the transport. Then get this thing moving. Jake ran backward, still firing. Vexara matched his pace, her movements fluid and precise. They reached the ramp together. The transport's engines roared to life, the deck plates vibrating beneath their feet. Krell soldiers rushed the dock, desperate to stop their escape. The ramp began to close. Jake fired his last shots. Vexara grabbed him with 2 arms and pulled him deeper into the ship as the ramp sealed with a metallic clang. Krell rounds sparked off the exterior hull. Hold on to something, the pilot. One of Vexara's warriors announced in clicking speech that the transport systems translated. The ship lurched forward, accelerating hard. Jake was thrown against a bulkhead, the breath knocked from his lungs. Vexara steadied him with surprising gentleness for a creature with claws that could tear through steel. Warning klaxons wailed as the Krell warships locked targeting solutions. The transport jinked and weaved, engines screaming at maximum thrust. Through the viewports, Jake saw the station falling away behind them. Come on, Linda, he whispered. Work your magic. For 3 endless seconds, nothing happened. Then the station's core went critical. The fusion reactor unleashed decades of stored energy in a single catastrophic moment. The explosion was a miniature sun, expanding outward in a sphere of annihilation. The shockwave caught the nearest Krell warship, overwhelming its shields and crushing the hull like paper. The transport bucked violently as the blast wave hit. Alarms shrieked. Systems overloaded. But they were already at the edge of the explosion radius, riding the wave like a surfer catching the perfect break. Jump coordinates locked, the pilot announced. Initiating hyperspace in 5 seconds. The stars stretched into lines. Reality twisted. Then they were through, hurling through the dimension between dimensions where physics took a coffee break. Jake let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. Around him, his crew was doing the same. Nervous laughter bubbled up, the kind that comes after surviving something that should have killed everyone involved. Vexara's warriors chittered among themselves, checking on the drones and juveniles. The young ones seemed unharmed, their large eyes blinking with curiosity rather than fear. They didn't fully understand how close they'd come to death. Status report, Vexara commanded. Hull integrity at 78%, the pilot responded. Engines stable. Life support nominal. We have sufficient supplies for 3 days. Navigation, set course for Haven Station. They owe me a debt. They will shelter us. Jake leaned against the bulkhead, suddenly aware of how exhausted he was. His muscles ached. His head throbbed. Every breath felt like work. Vexara settled beside him, her bulk somehow not as intimidating as it had been when they'd first met. Her crimson eyes studied him with an expression he couldn't quite read. "You kept your word," she said quietly. "You fought beside us. Saved my hive. Humans are not what I expected." "Yeah, well, your kind aren't what I expected either." Jake managed a tired smile. "When this is over, we should compare notes on xenobiology." "Is that a proposition, Jake Morrison?" "It's an observation that we make a good team. We do." She was quiet for a moment. "On my world, strength is everything. Strength of body, yes, but also strength of character, strength of will. You possess all three. You're pretty strong yourself. I am a queen. It is expected." Her mandibles clicked softly, but strength means nothing without purpose. Today, fighting beside you, I remembered why strength matters. To protect. To preserve. To give others a chance at tomorrow. Jake felt something shift in the air between them, a connection forged in combat and tempered by mutual respect. It was strange and unexpected, and probably complicated in ways he couldn't begin to understand. "So," he said, because someone had to break the tension. "What happens now?" Vexara's laugh was a sound like wind chimes made of razor blades, beautiful and dangerous. "Now, Jake Morrison, we survive, we heal. We rebuild." She leaned closer, her voice dropping to that resonant whisper that seemed to bypass his ears and speak directly to his chest. "And then, perhaps, I will show you what it truly means to love someone strong." Jake's heart hammered, though whether from fear or something else entirely he couldn't say. "That sounds dangerous. The best things always are." Haven Station materialized from the hyperspace corridor like a jewel in the void. The massive orbital installation housed dozens of species, a neutral ground where traders, refugees, and wanderers found temporary sanctuary. Its rotating rings caught the light of the nearby star, casting dancing shadows across the transport's viewport. "They're hailing us," the pilot announced. "Requesting identification and purpose." Vexara moved to the communications panel, her forearms dancing across controls designed for human hands. "This is Queen Vexara of the Shade Collective. I invoke the debt of blood. The debt of mercy. The debt sworn in the fires of the Talux Nebula campaign." Static crackled. Then a gravelly voice responded. "Vexara, we thought you dead." "I am difficult to kill, Commander Briggs. I require sanctuary. For myself, my hive, and human allies who fought beside us against the Krell. They're active again? 3 warships. Hunting my kind. 1 destroyed, 2 remain at large." A long pause. "Dock at Bay 17. We'll have medical teams standing by." The transport settled onto the docking clamps with a shudder of metal on metal. The ramp descended, revealing a contingent of station security along with medical personnel of various species. At their head stood Commander Gregory Briggs, a scarred human with cybernetic eyes and the bearing of someone who'd seen too much combat. Vexara. He inclined his head in respect. "It's been 4 years." 4 years, 3 months, 17 days. Time passes slowly when one is being hunted. Briggs's gaze shifted to Jake and his crew. "These the humans you mentioned?" "Jake Morrison and his salvage team. They could have abandoned us. They chose to fight instead. Vexara's mandibles clicked with emphasis. They are under my protection. Noted. Briggs gestured to the medical teams. Get everyone checked out. Food and quarters will be arranged. He locked eyes with Jake. Welcome to Haven Station, Morrison. Any friend of the Queen is welcome here. The next hours blurred together in a haze of medical scans, debriefings, and bureaucratic processing. Haven Station's facilities were efficient, and by the time Jake emerged from the medical bay with a clean bill of health and some fresh bandages, exhaustion had sunk into his bones. He found Vexara on an observation deck overlooking the station's central hub. She stood alone, silhouetted against the viewport, watching the traffic of ships coming and going. Your crew is well, she said without turning. The station's doctors have treated their injuries. Thanks for asking. Jake moved to stand beside her. How's your hive? Diminished. But alive. Her reflection in the viewport showed something that might have been sadness. 31 warriors remain. All drones survived. The juveniles are frightened, but unharmed. You saved them. That's what matters. We saved them. Your plan, your courage, your refusal to abandon us even when logic demanded it. She finally turned to face him. You are a strange creature, Jake Morrison. I get that a lot. I meant it as a compliment. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the cosmos spin beyond the transparisteel. Somewhere out there, the Krell hunted. Somewhere out there, war and death waited. But in this moment, in this small bubble of peace, they were safe. Commander Briggs tells me your ship was destroyed, Vexara said. You have no transport. Yeah, we're kind of stuck here until we can earn enough credits for new passage. Unacceptable. Her tone brooked no argument. You will travel with us. My transport has room, and you have already proven your worth in combat. Travel with you? To where? I have allies scattered across 3 sectors. Hives that will shelter us while we rebuild our strength. Her crimson eyes gleamed with determination. The Krell believe they have won. They believe my kind are broken, scattered, easy prey. They are wrong. You're planning a counterstrike. I am planning survival. Then, when we are strong enough, vengeance. She leaned closer. But survival is easier with allies. Humans think differently than my kind. You see solutions we miss. Today proved that. Jake considered the offer. His crew needed time to recover, to figure out their next move. Traveling with Vexara meant danger, but it also meant purpose. After what they'd been through together, abandoning her now felt wrong. I'll need to talk to my crew. But Jake Morrison? She placed one clawed hand on his shoulder. I would have you stay for more than tactical reasons. Oh? You reminded me of something I had forgotten. That strength without connection is merely brutality. That power without purpose is tyranny. Her mandibles clicked softly. You made me want to be more than a queen fighting endless wars. You made me want to build something. Jake's throat tightened. That's a lot of pressure to put on a salvage operator. You are more than that. You proved it when you stood beside me against impossible odds. Her voice dropped to that whisper that seemed to resonate in his chest. I told you earlier that you would love me. Perhaps I spoke too quickly. Perhaps I should have said that I could love you. The words hung in the air between them, fragile and terrifying, and strangely perfect. That's also a lot, Jake managed. We barely know each other. We know the things that matter. How the other fights, how the other thinks, how the other faces death without flinching. She withdrew her hand. But you are right. Time will tell if what began in fire can survive in peace. Time and a lot of communication. Agreed. Her laugh was that same razor wind chime sound. Humans and shade are not designed for compatibility. It will be complicated. Yeah, but I like complicated. Jake smiled. And I definitely like strong women who can bench press a Krell war chief. Flatterer. Honest observer. The station's intercom crackled to life, announcing a ship's arrival. Life continued around them, oblivious to the moment they'd shared. Talk to your crew, Vexara said. Rest. Heal. Then, if you choose to stay, we will face whatever comes together. And if I choose to leave? Her expression softened in a way that made her alien features almost familiar. Then I will ensure you have safe passage to wherever you wish to go. But I will miss you, Jake Morrison, and I will hope that our paths cross again. Jake looked out at the stars, at the infinite possibilities stretching before them. He thought of his crew, battered but alive. He thought of Vexara, proud and fierce and unexpectedly vulnerable. He thought of the Krell still hunting, the dangers still lurking. But mostly he thought about how sometimes the best things in life came from the most unexpected encounters, how sometimes strength meant opening yourself to risk, how sometimes the alien could become achingly familiar. I'll talk to the crew, he said. But I think you already know what I'm going to decide. Vexara's mandibles spread in what could only be a smile. Then I will see you soon, my unexpected ally. Soon, Jake agreed. And maybe next time we can skip the part where everything explodes. Where would be the fun in that? As Vexara walked away, her claws clicking on the deck plating, Jake couldn't help but smile. His comment about liking strong women had started as a flippant remark in the face of danger. Now it had led him somewhere he never expected to be. And honestly, he wouldn't have it any other way.